Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And this is Beyond the Frame, a podcast where we talk about movies and what we love about them, what we don't like about them, and we just have a great time talking about them, talking about movies. That was not a great intro. But anyways, this is Beyond the Frame, a podcast where we talk about movies. Riley?
I was just going to say, maybe not a great intro, but we're talking about maybe a great movie? I don't know. We're gonna dissect that a little bit.
Don't look at any reviews if you want to go into this movie like untainted. Yeah. There's a lot flying around out there. We're talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. I just have to come out and say, I saw this in a theater with a bunch of kids, and it was kind of crazy how into it they were. And it's because it's a kids movie. But it also got me thinking about some broader questions with this movie, and we can get to them. Mm-hmm. But the main one that I want everybody to think about is like, how do fandoms change over time? Because this movie is solely directed at kids, I really do think. But you know, it also is trying to target nostalgic gamers, I think. I think there is room for that in this movie. So yeah, I wanted to start the conversation there. Did you like the movie, and was it, you know, did it play off your nostalgia?
I have very mixed feelings about the movie. And kind of when we talk about the plot, I can dissect where I like the movie and where I kind of stopped liking the movie as much.
Okay, yeah.
But it's an interesting point where you talk about the change in fandoms, or how fandoms change over time, because a lot of what I liked about this movie is how it referenced just the Mario franchise in general and paid homage in very different ways to its various franchises, whether that's the classic Mario, whether that's the platforming Mario, whether that's Mario Kart, all of those different properties. Not to say that the movie didn't have an identity in its own right, but that made me curious, because this is a kids movie through and through. That's its focus. I don't know how much kids nowadays care or know about Mario, which makes me think, and I say that earnestly. I genuinely don't know.
We don't have kids, so we don't know.
No, and we're way past that demographic. I don't
are.
know if kids in grade 2, 3, 4, just elementary, maybe younger, junior high, how much do they care about the Mario franchise? Because when I think about Mario, I really associate with people our age and older with that nostalgia, going back and purchasing those games and playing them through. To me, this is a movie no different than like Minions or something, where that's the appeal. It's a very bright, energetic animated film, and that's what's drawing kids in. But I don't know, and I don't know if the kids at your theater, for instance, who were so enthusiastic about it, were there because it's Mario, or if they're there because this is a fun animated movie.
Yeah, I guess it could maybe be both. I wonder if there are kids, and we're old enough that there are kids who their first game might have been Super Mario Odyssey, or not first, but their first introduction to Mario could have been Odyssey. And I think, because I say Odyssey because like the style of Mario and like sort of the overall look and feel of the film is very much in the vein of like the 3D Mario games. They almost look like little dioramas, which I really enjoyed about the movie. But yeah, I think it's probably both. I haven't talked to a kid about what they think, like why they were excited, but you know, they all had like, I don't know if this was something they were giving out at the theater or what, but they all had little plush Mario and Luigi's, or most of them did. And so, do you think that they're just so iconic that they don't really know? They're like, oh, it's just been around forever, you know?
I do think even if you're a young kid that doesn't play the Mario games, and I also want to take a step back and say, even though I have no information on this, but I suspect many kids don't play the platforming Mario games, with the exception of maybe Odyssey. I do think everyone knows, and most kids who have a Nintendo console probably played Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart
Yep.
has a party identity in and of itself that extends to any demographic, really.
Absolutely. Everybody plays that game.
But if you go into a Walmart or you go into any store, you're gonna see Mario and Luigi toys. You're gonna see
There's
go
Lego.
into the Lego store. I was just gonna
Yeah,
say Mario and Luigi Lego. Like it's something that you can't escape. Like it's similar to, I mean, you can name any giant viral franchise that you may not personally be watching. You know who the characters are. There's just like this common sense cultural knowledge.
Yeah, it's part of the, I hate to use this word, zeitgeist, but it kind of is. It is baked into a lot of our culture, you know, because it's video games and they are a staple of culture now. They're quite in the mainstream, and they're in the mainstream for kids. I just wonder, like, is this like the Fortnite effect? Like, I say Fortnite effect, haven't really elaborated on it, but do you think it's like it's available for the kids like in Mario Kart, and so it's big and it's known like as a franchise, so then they just see Mario and they say, I love Mario, I'm gonna go see this movie. Do you think it's that simple, or do you think there's a little bit more going on there?
See, I don't know. And I think this is where we need a hard-hitting playground interview series where an investigative journalist hits the schoolyards and asks these important questions so we can know, so we have the data.
Okay, here's like the one anecdote I have. My father-in-law is a principal at a school, and he has talked to a few kids who are super excited for it, and he said that it's like it's similar to like a cartoon that they like. It's just they think about it, they draw it, they're like, they have the toys, they have the games. It is just it's like its own ecosystem of characters. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's like, I'm trying to think. I keep trying to think what's another, you know, game or a mascot that would fit this. Like Sonic does not fit this, because I feel like Sonic's like a meme for like a very specific type of audience. Like there's dedicated Sonic fans, but it did, like, the Sonic movies didn't do this well. Do you think there's anything else out there like that?
If we're stepping back, even before our era, could this be similar to like an iconic franchise such as He-Man? Where
G.I.
there's
Joe.
a TV, or G.I. Joe.
Transformers.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's probably the best one so far.
Yeah, it's kind of like a multimedia thing, right? Like the cartoons were there to sell the toys, and the toys sold the cartoon. It was kind of like the perfect marketing machine. Yes. I totally think that's where this movie sits.
For you, going back, were you ever into the Mario games or the Mario franchise? Do you have that nostalgic love for the franchise?
I don't know if I would really call it nostalgia. If I go back to, like, I mean, I played the original Super Mario Brothers on Super Nintendo because, like, it was my dad's. Okay. Like the Duck Hunt Combo SNES cartridge. Other than that, like, I knew Mario from like Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I didn't play Sunshine because I didn't have a GameCube. I had a Game Boy, but I didn't have any Mario games. I had a DS. I had like the Mario that came with all the DSs, like that, the new Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So I had that. And I really didn't get into a Mario game in earnest until Odyssey, if I'm being honest. I didn't play Galaxy either. So to me, like, it wasn't really a nostalgic connection. It was mostly like, I played a lot of Mario Kart with my friends. I never owned it, but I played a lot of it. I played a lot of Smash. Never owned Smash until recently. So, yeah, for me, not a lot of a connection. What about you?
Here's the interesting thing. I think back about all the Mario games I played. I partially played the one for 3DS because that just seems to have come with everything.
Yeah, it was
I
everywhere.
did play Galaxy, and I might have played a little bit of Galaxy 2. Obviously played Mario Kart. But that's about it. And when I think back about at least the platforming Mario games, because Mario Kart once again is its own beast. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I like Mario. I don't. I'm
No?
not a big platformer
Yeah.
person. I don't think I get excited about the 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 loop basically, or finding all the stars on a level, or really just go. It's not my type of game.
Yeah.
But what amazes me, and I'm sure you've probably noticed this as well, and going back just to the zeitgeist of the whole thing, although I really haven't played any Mario games, for whatever reason, I'm so familiar with the franchise that I got, at least I feel like I got almost all of the references to games in the franchise during the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, totally. I think that in passing, I picked up on most of them without even really, because like there's like some references to like Yoshi's Island that I don't know Yoshi's Island, but I knew that that there was bound to be. Okay, well, actually, this is a better way of phrasing it. Did I get all the references because I knew the Mario games, or did I get the references because they were bound to be there? So I saw Yoshi and I was like, oh yes, there's probably some Yoshi's Island thing in there. The fruit, I think, was one of them. I think that's connected to the Yoshi franchise.
Well,
Anyways,
yeah.
Yoshi's Island. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think this was like a case of like too many references? Like, or do you think they did a good job of putting them in?
I actually thought they did a pretty good job, because this was
I would agree.
one of the compliments I had for the movie is the references to its properties did not feel cheesy. They actually felt pretty well integrated, and added a level of maybe magic to the movie, just to make the world a little bit more exciting. It didn't feel like it was just a shoe-in to get the aha moment from the audience. At least not all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe there was like a couple that were a little too on the nose. But I think for the most part, it was fairly smoothly put in the movie.
I agree. There's for those who watch and listen to Red Letter Media, they call, like, when a franchise or a TV show does like a little reference, they call them like member berries. It's like, oh, you remember Egon from Ghostbusters? You remember the ghost catching trap? Do you remember Ecto 1? It's like to me, those are like, it's like the hallmark of like a lazy, just like put it in because they're gonna notice. We gotta fit everything in here. It's not the case with this movie, and that's really nice. I was a little worried that it was just gonna be all over the place with that kind of stuff.
So overall, like, actually jumping into the movie now, what was your impression of it? Did you walk away happy? Did you walk away satisfied?
I walked away. I think I walked away satisfied. I didn't think about it too much, which is not good in some ways, because I truly am a believer that kids' movies and TV shows can like really tell a good story and have a good message. This just doesn't really have much of a message. It's just like moments and emotion, like just little bits of it. I mean, to really answer your question though, like, I had fun with it. Am I gonna watch it again? No, it's not. It doesn't have that kind of staying power with me. What about you?
I remember when I was in the theater, I think for probably the first maybe 35 to 40 minutes, I was floored by the movie, and I was thoroughly impressed.
You were into it.
I thought it was vibrant. The animation was absolutely
Super good.
gorgeous. Like, I remember from the start, the opening scene where Bowser's taking over that Penguin Kingdom.
The Ice
And you
Kingdom,
could
yeah.
see all of the individual snowflakes animated. And I thought the attention to detail in this movie is incredible. And just from the opening jump, where it was really quick setup for Mario and Luigi, what they were like as brothers, what they were doing. I thought the infomercial that they did was hilarious. The entry into the Mushroom Kingdom I thought was really well done, and I talked with Jessie about it, and she didn't like that part. She thought Mario maybe accepted this strange world too quickly. And I was like, you know what? I don't mind that they push. It's a classic trope to be amazed and question everything around you when you enter this brand new world. And I was like, it's almost nice to skip past that. Let's accept it and let's just embrace the magic for what it is without having to question it.
Yeah, it's not an isekai like anime, you know, like it doesn't need to be like that.
And I think all the way up to the Mario Kart scene, I absolutely love the movie. And I was like, if it keeps on this pace, I would buy it and I would probably watch this again. But then after the Mario Kart scene where the Bowser conflict kind of starts taking place a little bit more prevalently, it just wasn't there because then, as you kind of already said, the movie is just moments with like a sprinkle of emotion, but in the loosest sense possible.
It's like I think that like the core of the movie, like the relationship between Mario and Luigi, that's done well. Like I think that's serviceable. Does that really like resonate with me? Not really. It's enough to get the plot from like one place to another, but it runs out of steam. You know what I mean? Like I agree. Like after the Mario Kart scene, I was kind of thinking, let's just like get this over with. Like, you know, there's going to be a fight. You know, they're going to use the power or the superstar or whatever. Yeah. It's very clearly laid out.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I said, my brain was kind of lulled into passivity by the colors and the animation, because I agree with you. The opening was so good.
Yeah.
It set the tone for the movie. It was really like, the human world was almost like more interesting in some ways. Like, I don't know. And maybe that's a combination of like, I really liked the little rivalry that was set up between them and the other plumber guy, Spike, I think was his name.
Yeah, Spike.
Yeah. So like, I think the only thing that redeemed it in the end for me, and it's a light redeem because I do have a lot of problems with it, but I liked that they went back. That's where spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, but it's I like that they fought in Brooklyn in the end. I think that was really great, and I think it kind of brought it full circle. Is it kind of weird that like Donkey Kong and Mario like have a friendship realization moment because they're both like, oh, my dad thinks I'm an idiot, and, oh yeah, also my dad thinks I'm an idiot? It's a little loose. It's not really meant to be thought on. I don't think it maybe should be, but I don't think it is. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like for character stuff.
I'll talk about the character thing, but I do want to make a note on that one scene you mentioned in particular, because we went and seen the Mario movie with a mutual friend of ours, and during that scene where they're talking about how both their dads think they're idiots, and then Donkey Kong goes, "Yeah, but your dad was right."
Yeah.
You heard him losing it in the theater. That was the funniest scene to him in the whole movie.
That's what got him. That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't. I like. It's funny too because it's like Seth Rogen. So I think that like all comes together with Donkey Kong's character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a good moment, but it's just like it kind of falls flat.
But that's kind of just the movie for me in general, though, because when I go back to the start, I thought the foundation of their dad and the whole family laughing at the two brothers, thinking that they're losers, and they have this dream, but it's not realistic. They're short, they're goofy, they dress like clowns. Why would you hire a plumber with white gloves?
White gloves.
There's all these things, and I thought, wow, that could actually make for a really emotional through line through the movie. And then you get to the movie, and well, I didn't like that they went back to Brooklyn to fight compared to you. Regardless of that, they basically go back and fight. The brothers get the superstar. They're big heroes in the eyes of the Brooklyn people and their family.
Yeah, and
the dad's
their
just
parents,
like, well, I guess you're a super the whole time. And that's basically the emotional payoff you get. And it's a line in the movie. There's no real heart to it. Yes.
Yeah. There's no soul in it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like, I think that they get by on the cuteness and some of the jokes and the performances by the voice actors.
Yeah.
But it really just it screams, this is a product to sell other products.
And the the soul, like whatever soul there is in the movie, it comes at the very front, it comes very abruptly at the end, and there's nothing in between except for the razzle dazzle of the animation and the fun references to the movie, which are entertaining enough. But when I left the theater, initially I was like, you know what, that was a fun movie. But the more I thought about it, the more it's a very forgettable experience to me.
It is.
Like outside of sitting in the theater and enjoying the spectacle of it in the moment, this isn't a movie I'll ever think about for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have any sort of staying power. This is not like you can insert any animated movie that's like even like a 3D animated movie. Like you think of anything that and Pixar hasn't done a ton of good stuff, but it's not like Cars, I don't know why I bring up Cars specifically, but actually no, I bring it up because that's a movie that I haven't thought about in a long time. But if somebody was like, hey, I'm going to put on the Cars movie for whatever reason, it wouldn't be the worst thing ever. There is like some soul and some character to it.
Yep.
It's this just doesn't have that in a lot of ways.
I even think of like animated movies from our era, like
Spider-Verse, even like Lego, sorry to cut you off, but also like the Lego movie, like that literally is built to sell Lego, or it does sell Lego probably by proxy, and it doesn't feel like it's selling me anything.
Lego movie, the Lego movie has a lot more heart to it. I can also say that the Lego movie's not bad. But no, going back to like movies from our era, like Lilo and Stitch, that has an emotional punch to it with a good payoff at the end.
It does.
It starts off strong with this child whose sister is raising her, and she feeds peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to a certain fish because she believes the fish controls the weather, and that's why her parents died. And then in the end, she finally finds family, and throughout it, there's this good emotional core to it that
makes you feel things.
Well, and to be honest, I haven't watched that movie in well over a decade, and I can still think of details like that. I won't be able to think about Mario in the same.
No, it's really, maybe it's not meant to be that, but I've like read some reviews of people who like are like fawning over the movie, and it's I don't know. I don't really see myself having any sort of connection to this, and it's not really for me, to be fair. But I think to critique it, I think that like one of my most favorite movies ever, Spirited Away, is like a kids movie on its surface, and it talks about the problems that kids have and what it's like to be a kid and the feelings around that. And I think about that movie all the time, and I love it. But yeah, this is just not this ain't it.
No, they are fully capable of making children's movies with emotional maturity to it that's
Totally
still accessible to kids, but makes an adult audience more engaged with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Mario Luigi brotherhood, their brotherly connection is it's a good starting point. It's a good foundation. Like the Charlie Day Luigi performance and even Chris Pratt's Mario performance, they play off each other really well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they just it doesn't help that the best relationship in the movie was like completely torn apart for the plot reasons. Yeah, right? Like it would have been interesting to see them maybe interact a little bit more. Yeah. Not just be like, oh, everything's going to be better when we're together. Like, yeah, that's okay, but it's pretty simple, So
now that you kind of mentioned the voice actors, going into, when they first announced the Mario movie, that was a fairly controversial issue. And I would say the two most controversial picks were obviously Chris Pratt as Mario, and I would say the other one was Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Yep.
Overall, did you feel that the voice actors did a good job with their characters?
I think everybody had really solid performances. I knew Bowser was going to be done well by Jack Black, because Jack Black's just a great actor and a great voice actor. Charlie Day as Luigi, I was excited to hear that. Chris Pratt, I was a hater. I straight up was a hater. Like,
Yeah.
I thought he was going to do it. It was going to be so bad, and his performance was not that bad at all.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, like a friend of mine who saw it, he said that he forgot it was Chris Pratt
Well, to be honest,
at the end of it. Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily sound like Chris Pratt. Like when I think of Chris Pratt's voice acting roles, he's much more noticeable as Chris Pratt in the Lego Movie than he is here. His voice is definitely a little bit more disguised for me. I thought
he's
the
doing a
accent
bit
was
more
fun.
with it. Yeah,
And I also thought it was kind of fun where at the very start where they open with their commercial that they shot and they're speaking in an Italian accent, and then suddenly the commercial flips off and they're no
just
longer
talking
in an accent
normally.
anymore. Yeah. I thought that was kind of a fun little poke at things.
it is. Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, they got the actual voice actor of Mario, to be the guy who's like playing the arcade cabinet beside them. So that's like kind of interesting. They play around with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the character performances were really good, and like Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach was great. Peach doesn't have a lot of character. She has like almost negative voice lines in the entire franchise, and she she was one of the standout performances in my opinion. She really added a lot to Peach's character, whatever paper thin amount there was. But I also really like Anya Taylor-Joy. I think
She's
we watched The Menu. I feel like we talked about her a lot on that.
And the witch.
And The Witch, yep.
And when Furiosa comes out, we're going to be talking about Furiosa.
Oh, definitely. Like, we can't not. That's already been worked into the schedule for the podcast.
Who did Toad?
Yeah.
Do you know who Toad was? The main Toad.
Yeah.
Because I thought his character, whoever played that was probably one of my favorite characters in the movie, even though Toad only had probably 4 small lines. Every scene that Toad was in was a scene stealer to me, especially when he's walking
funny.
Mario.
Yeah. It's funny that we don't know who it is, because like their voice was the most disguised out of all of them. It was it's so funny. His performance was so good because it was Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay, that's who I thought it was, because I remember the picture during the announcement of the voice cast. Absolute scene stealer. That scene where he was walking Mario up to Peach's castle, I thought was probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie for me personally.
It was well done.
Yeah,
and he was good. But yeah, it just goes to show, like, had the performances been any worse, I don't think this movie would hold up. I think it would be annoying for the 90 minutes that they're all on screen. But I think that's the one thing that got me through. That and the music. I think the music was really well done. I loved all the different renditions that they had. I won't go into all of it piece by piece because we'd be here all night. But yeah, I definitely think that there's one piece in particular, the superstar music. It was really good because you're watching this overwhelming like action on the screen, and then you just hear the theme for the stars for the superstar like come through, like when you pick it up in the game. And it's like little moments like that where I like kind of stepped back and I said, okay, there were people who actually cared about the franchise on this movie, and that's what really led to it being so good. But I don't know, do you think, like, what are you rating this movie? I'm just so curious.
There's a lot of love baked into this movie, just not a lot of substance. It's inoffensive. I will say it's
inoffensive.
It's a good time when you're in the movie and you're watching it. It just has no staying power. It's a solid 2.5 for me, I think.
It's a 2.5. The inoffensiveness is like almost a detriment to it in some ways. Like they could have maybe taken a bit more of a risk. I think it would have required the movie to be longer, and with a longer runtime, you risk alienating people. I think this. Well, the one thing that I read, and I agree with it, is in most reviews is that it did not overstay its welcome. So that worked in its favor. But 2.5 stars. Is that the lowest on the podcast?
It might be the lowest for me.
Have
I
we
don't
rated-
know.
I'm trying to think of a movie that you would have rated 2 stars. And
Normally,
that-
I'm
I
pretty
don't think-
optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I think, and you kind of explained your reasoning behind like what a 1 star would be to you, and that that there's not a lot of movies that you would think could be 1 star.
No. To be basically that needs to be unwatchable at that point. Like maybe 2.5 is a little bit low, but I think based on how inoffensive it is, that's where it sits for me. Because I think for a lot of movies, even that I rate maybe slightly higher, like a 3 or something, I feel like I would go back and watch those movies on occasion, just for other reasons. And I honestly don't think I'll ever watch this again.
Even if it was like hypothetical, like if it was on like Netflix or a streaming service that you owned already and it came across your recommended.
No, if I'm gonna go see an animated movie again, I'm gonna pull Into the Spider-Verse off my shelf and I'm gonna watch that for the 15th time.
I feel like
I'm just gonna be honest.
If you have that on your shelf and then there's also like the Super Mario Brothers movie, like there's no comparison. It's hard. It's really hard to even put them in the same, that they're both movies. They're so far away from each other. So I get where you're coming from on that. There's an animated movie that I just recently watched again. Oh, I watched Akira with Morag. She had never seen it before.
Okay.
And that is like my 7th time watching it. Yeah. And it's still just such a treat every time. Like it's one, I won't get into it very much, but it's just, that's a movie that has staying power for me personally. Yeah. But I think it has staying power because of a multitude of reasons, but mostly because it's like the perfect combo of like visuals and music and story and writing. And I think that like the Mario movie it gets the visuals right of anything, but it doesn't really have, maybe the music too, but we watch movies for the plot. There still has to be a plot. And it's so thin that like I can't give this more than like, if I could rate it, I don't know if I can on Letterboxd. If I could rate it 2.25 out of 5, I think I would, because obviously it works. It is a movie. It has scenes. It has writing that's not, doesn't upset me. So, but other than that, no. I think it'd be. I'm gonna say I'll say low 2 and 2.25. So low 2.
Well, it is amazing to listen to our ratings on this, because as a summary, what we're saying is music pretty solid, animation near flawless. It's amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
The scenes itself very fun to watch. The voice acting is all incredible. The only component missing out of it is just the story and the emotional through line in it, and the absence of that took it down so far. And I think if you were to add, and you already kind of touched on this, if you were to add maybe another 15 minutes to the movie just to flush out the theme of brotherhood, the theme of being a disappointment to your family, the theme of dreaming what you want to do and actually chasing that unapologetically,
and being unique,
Yeah. There's things that could have been tugged on a little bit more that maybe could have elevated this movie to a whole new level. That being said, I'm still very excited to go see the new Puss in Boots. I hear that's fantastic and the animation is gorgeous.
There is an animated movie that is like probably worth picking up, like that actually it tells a very good story. And it's kind of a shame in a way with the Mario movie, but am I upset about it? No. And do I regret going to see it in theaters? Absolutely not. I think as a theater experience, fairly good. I think if you have the chance and the free time, why not go check it out?
So with how wildly successful this is, easily the biggest video game franchise movie of all time, doesn't even come close to anything that I know which already exists. I don't think it's far-fetched to say we'll see more Nintendo franchises coming to the big screen. What are you hoping to see?
My gut reaction was, I want to see something from the Legend of Zelda universe.
Okay.
Is that going to be easy to adapt? No. they're all super weird stories that don't really connect. And Link is a silent protagonist. They did it with Mario, so maybe they could do it with Link. I haven't really thought more like a lot beyond that. Like maybe they could do some sort of, well, and this is where the problem is like every Zelda story is an origin story for Link, you know? So it's hard to really say if they could do that. So I only say that because that's my most favorite franchise of all time from Nintendo. What I do think they could do, and I do think could be a viable option for them, is a Star Fox movie or TV show. I think it fits into the cute factor. Yeah. It could be an action movie. It could, the Star Fox universe. Not like I'm well versed in it, but I recently played through Star Fox Assault. And it's just a third person shooter, but it's got lots of interesting characters, and it's got, it implies that there's a very large universe and stuff going on in the background. So that could be good. I think that would be an interesting one for them, and maybe a Kirby movie. If I'm throwing it out there, Kirby could be interesting.
Has the cute factor.
It has the cute factor, and it's, I don't know who would voice Kirby though.
I don't know, but actually, now that you mentioned Star Fox, I think that's a really good suggestion because, and I will say, if they're going to do that, if they're going to listen to this podcast and take your suggestion to heart, I think they need to do that before Rogue Squadron comes out, which is Patty Jenkins. It's still technically on the Star Wars slate. I don't think it's been taken off the shelf yet. I think it's mostly a scheduling issue. I would make it before that comes out, but I think the content could be exciting enough for kids, and I think you could have a little bit more adult content mixed in there.
It talks about big themes, the Star Fox games, like war and the stories of people who are affected by the war, and that kind of stuff. Definitely could be something like that.
See, my pick, and this may be like reaching for the lowest apple on the apple tree here. My next movie that I would want to see in this Nintendo universe wouldn't necessarily be a different franchise. I think a Luigi's Mansion movie could be absolutely hilarious.
Good. Yeah. I wondered if we were going to get a Luigi's Mansion reference or joke when he was in the Darklands by himself.
I was waiting for it because he was shouting Mario, and when I played the latest Mario or the latest Luigi's Mansion game, Jesse would get so annoyed at me because there was this one line where Luigi would just go, "Mama Mario, Mama Mario." And I was just waiting
How did
for
she not
that.
hit you?
I mean,
So
I definitely
funny.
got the odd glare, but I was just waiting for him to call out for Mario like that.
He even had like the flashlight. He was even walking around like holding the bag, almost like he would have in a Luigi's Mansion
vacuum?
game. Yeah, with the vacuum. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a really good idea. I feel like that could be really interesting. And Luigi's Mansion has like a cool story and a couple of interesting, well, actually a lot of interesting characters. So, yeah,
I think it's fantastic. It sets itself up because here are the Super Mario Brothers movie, pardon me, was all about brothers being strong when they're together. They're able to conquer anything. But now you're taking Luigi and you're making him be independent, and he has to come to terms that he can be just as sturdy and strong as on his own.
Compelling story.
I don't
That's
know.
a compelling story though, because like Mario starts this movie like being competent, like he is already jumping around and he knows how to fix everything. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great emotional through line. Shigeru Miyamoto, if you are watching this podcast, hit us up. We'll write the screenplay for you. Easy money. We'll do it in a weekend.
It's a hit.
Yeah, it would be. I feel like that would be really interesting. And then you release it around Halloween. There's your fall
markets
release.
itself.
It really does market itself. I mean, like Luigi costume stuff. There's like all the ghosts could be their own toys because there's a lot of ghosts in the lots of like unique ghosts in the game. I don't know.
I also think you're hitting a couple fan bases because not only are you hitting the Nintendo fan base, I also feel like people are itching for like a really good Ghostbusters style movie. And I don't know if they've hit that yet. I've heard the latest one's pretty good with Paul Rudd. and everyone
I
else.
have heard not good things about it.
Oh, I thought I've heard it's okay.
Just from like the cynical movie reviewers that I follow, they didn't really like it. I've not heard it from like an unbiased take, or not unbiased, but a middle of the road take.
I haven't seen it yet, but all I know is I think people are waiting for something to scratch that itch again. And I think if you take a Luigi's Mansion movie seriously and inject it with the right amount of fun and the right amount of adult emotion and humor, I think it could be a hit.
Yeah. Well, there you go, everybody. That is our thoughts on the Mario movie. It ended up being way longer than I thought it was going to be, but that's a good thing. I do think there are things to talk about in like a broader scope of movies and just where they're going and, you know, how they're potentially products to market other products. We could talk about that. But I just don't think we need to talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie anymore. So what are we going to watch next, Riley?
What are we watching next? I think we settled on Beau is Afraid.
I think we decided Beau is Afraid, yeah.
The next film in the
Astroverse.
And I think we're taking a little bit of a different direction with that, whereas previously his first two movies were fairly squarely grounded in horror. My understanding, without really knowing anything about the plot, is now we're delving a little bit more into the goofy side of things. So I'm excited to see how he handles comedy / drama intermixed with a little bit of horror elements. And from what I hear, this is truly a project that only Ari Aster could create from his mind, and it's a one-of-a-kind movie that you probably will never have seen before.
Did I pronounce his name wrong? Is it Ari?
To be honest, I have no idea. I've always pronounced it Ari Aster, but I
don't think I've heard it said out loud. I really should have looked that up. Should do some due diligence.
No, it's totally professional just to make it up as you go and hope it's right.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, we're all just doing our best.
Yeah, exactly. But I am very excited to go see it.
So everybody go watch that, and the next podcast is going to come out in a couple of weeks. So make sure you go see it, and if, for anybody who didn't go see the Super Mario Brothers movie, it's okay. You don't have to see it, but if you want to, it's not the worst, $15, $16 that you'll spend on a movie ticket. And yeah, that's it. That's all we have to say, unless you have something, burning of like one last thing you got to say about the Super Mario Brothers movie. the last word.
Not about the Mario Brothers movie, but when you say the worst $15 to $16 on a ticket you've ever spent, I immediately thought of Cloud Atlas, and that is the only movie I thought of walking out on.
No. Oh, it's so bad. The one for me, 10,000 BC.
Oh, I could see that too.
Yeah, that was. I fell as a kid. I fell asleep in that movie in a movie theater. So bad. Maybe we should make a list. We ought to do like a big list of like just where we like a big podcast where we just talk about like maybe ranking some movies. I feel like that could be pretty fun.
Oh, I need some notice on that. I would really need to put my head into things and
think
about what I watched.
Everybody go comment your favorite movie in the comments right now, and we'll maybe talk about it. We'll maybe put it onto a list. What if we let people tell us, and that'll fill in the gaps a little bit? Then it's like, if you haven't seen it, you just throw it out.
Could you imagine a series or a podcast episode where everyone comments what their favorite movie is? We look and compile a list based on those comments. We just give our raw feedback on, is that a good pick or is it a bad pick?
That's funny.
Just
no context.
Be the authority on what's a good movie and what's a bad movie.
Oh, that's your favorite childhood movie? Yeah, it's garbage.
I wouldn't even put that on my shelf.
Yeah. I wouldn't even get that. I wouldn't even add that to my list on Disney Plus.
No, I would be too embarrassed to show people that I watched that.
God. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. That was Beyond the Frame. If you want to subscribe to our Patreon, you can find us at Midnight Radio or BTF Cast. Or BTF Pod, rather. God, I really should just write a script for this. You can support us on Patreon, but if you don't, that's okay. That you can just watch our videos. We are on YouTube. We are on every podcast platform. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. Appreciate
next
y'all
time.
stopping by. Yeah, until next time, we promise we will have a good movie next time. Well, actually, no. Can't make any
Fingers
promises.
crossed. It'll be a
Both
movie.
afraid. All right. See y'all in the next one.